Hey everybody, this is Jason Alba with another show on tech and tech careers and stuff like that. I'm here with my friend Barry from the Netherlands. And Barry, I'm not even going to try and say your last name. I'll let you say your last name.
No, yeah, no. My name is Barry Luijbregts, so it's Luijbrecht.
Lujbregts.
Yeah, it's
Lujbregts.
it's Dutch. But if you're
Yes, it
curious,
is. Yeah. I speak Spanish and I used to speak it really well, but it's been a long time since I've practiced, intensely. But man, there's some other like Dutch. I don't get it. When I was in the Netherlands, I was pleased at how much I could understand, right? Because there's
yeah,
so
yeah.
many words that kind of sound Englishy, but man, it is a whole different. It's funny because people are like, "How do I learn this language?" And I'm like, "Go there and live there for 2 or 3 years because it's hard to learn languages."
It is, yeah,
So
it is. And in the Netherlands, it's extra hard because people just speak English. So if they hear that you have a slight accent, they just
they
immediately
just
switch
switch
to
over to
English.
English.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you'll never learn Dutch. Really, it's very difficult.
Yeah, and if you come to the United States, we never do that. We'll never switch over to Dutch.
I know, yeah, I
I
know.
think the percentage of people that could actually do that is like super low, way less than 1% is my guess.
Yeah.
Bear, I'm looking at your Pluralsight author page, and I didn't realize you had 25 courses. Like you're really hammering courses out. Did you
Yeah.
start in the oldest course is January 17? Is that when you started?
2016. That oldest one is updated once.
Got it.
So I
Okay.
the first one was published in December 2016, I think.
Okay.
So that is now, well, it's already 2021. So yeah,
You've been very busy, and you have a lot of ratings, and your average content rating is really high. So good job. People like your stuff. You're focusing mostly on cloud stuff, right? But what is here outside of cloud? Like you have working with text and lists and HTML, which sounds really sexy. Like that's a great. But what do you do outside of cloud
Mm.
stuff on Pluralsight?
Well, lots. Yeah, I started out with the cloud, therefore also have the moniker Azure Barry, so that people can remember who I am without looking up my last name, which is
Right.
just way too difficult.
And that's
So
on Twitter at
that's
AzureBerry.
yeah, that's everywhere. Well, everywhere. It's azureberry.com and on Twitter.
Good.
So yeah,
Good job.
Azure and a bit of HTML. Like my most popular course still to this moment is HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, the big picture. And
Good.
that discusses these three technologies from scratch for absolute beginners. Just to say, what are these things and how do you use them to stick them together to actually create something on the web? How does that work?
Yeah.
How does the web work? And then from there, you can go further. So, web, also WebAssembly, Blazor, a little bit. What else? JavaScript, like I said, a couple more on JavaScript as well. And yeah,
And,
now I've
and
created
now,
one about burnout as well.
yeah, yeah, we'll
And
talk
that's
about that in a
yeah,
little bit. I'm excited to talk about that because I went
yeah,
through burnout. Well, I've gone through burnout multiple times in my career, and I have really big burnout, which is why I got a job back in 2018. But then I have micro burnouts. I don't know if you talk about that in your course, but like when I
mm,
when I create a Pluralsight course, as you know, there's steps involved. So there's writing the script and cleaning up the script and all that stuff. And by the way, when in my first 10 or 15 courses, I wouldn't script them because I thought I was smart enough to do it without a script. And I go back
oh,
and listen to those, and they're very
yeah,
disjointed. And
yeah,
the flow isn't good, the transitions aren't good, there's a lot of filler language. I was
yeah,
actually just going through an older course, and I was looking at an analogy that I was talking about, and I was like, wait, this analogy has nothing to do with anything, not the topic, not where I'm talking
yeah,
about. It was just
yeah,
ridiculous. So I started scripting, and then the next phase I'll go into slide design, and that could take, I just turned in a module which was about 100 slides, and that has taken me about a week, somewhere around a week. And I'm
yeah.
tired. Like I am tired of slide design. I am burned out. the next phase is recording, and then the next phase is editing, which I outsource now. But what I've realized is I can't do just script all the time. I need to jump from script to slides. But let's go up just a little higher. The scripting is a very creative process. Like when you're figuring out what to put in and what to exclude from your course, there's a lot of creativity that goes in there, and it's exhausting, right? It's hard to always be creating. And then the slide design is also a very creative process. And so when I get out of those two phases and I can go into recording, that's not creative at all. Really, it's more of autopilot, where I've already done all the hard work and I just read my script and I put in my sound nuances and stuff like that, but it's not nearly that creative. And then the editing part is also not creative. It's pretty cut and dry. But if I were to do just one of those things all the time, I'd go nuts because of what I'm going to call micro burnout. So anyways, I'm excited to talk about burnout with you, but I first want to talk about your career. So you seem young to me, but I don't know, maybe it's just a European thing.
I'm 38.
You're 38. Yeah. Well, you are young, man. You're just a baby. You're way young. I'm way ahead of you. Tell me about your career. Like, were you one of these tech prodigies where when you were little, you were taking apart computers and writing code in BASIC and making your own games and stuff? Or how did you get involved in technology?
Well, actually, all those things, yeah. So my dad bought what's it called, an MSX basic computer back in the day. Basically, was a thick keyboard, and you could hook up a cassette player to it, because that was the medium that contained the data back in the day. There were no floppies. There was no CDs.
And what'd you get on a cassette? Like 2 gigs or?
I don't know how much.
It wasn't two. I guarantee it wasn't 2 gigs.
No,
it wasn't 2 gigs.
But you could get actual games on there, like Le Mans, for instance, like a racing game. It wasn't spectacular, but it worked. So, that was fascinating. And then I started to read from this book that was accompanied with the computer that just contained basic code for all of those games. And you could just start typing. The thing didn't really have a memory bank or something. So, well, it did, but nothing permanent, unless you were able to record it on a tape, which I wasn't. So, you just started just typing text and text and text and page of this basic code, hoping that you don't make any errors, and then compile, and then hopefully it works. And then you have a very basic game.
That sounds almost punch card level stressful,
It was fun,
So was your dad technical, or was he just kind of like, hey, here's a new thing, go play with this?
Well, he's technical in the sense that he was a carpenter, so he's very handy with stuff, which I am really not. But he's always been interested in technology. So he bought the next computer and the next one and a bit faster thing, and then the first CD player. He was always interested in that type of stuff.
That's awesome.
But he wasn't a developer or a software person. Neither was my mom. So, from there, the thing was that with text, I could just create something. So you type something in the computer, and then you press enter, and magically it works. And then you create something. Something happens. Something happens on the screen. And that's magic. That's like a godlike feeling. Like, I can create. Yeah. I need this now. This is my superpower.
I'm thinking this is like a dopamine hit. When this first started, I could just imagine Little Barry typing something and hello world or whatever and hitting enter and like, whoa, that's so awesome. And then you just want to do more. I wish I had a cool story like that, but my childhood was not technical at all. My parents went to the store to buy the computers called Radio Shack, which I don't think it exists anymore. And they waited in line for like the special. And by the time they got to their place in line, the special computer was gone and they couldn't buy it. So they came home empty-handed. And so I got to play with rocks and sticks. That was my technical. So when did you go from like, how did you get from like the hello world, like, oh my gosh, something shows up on the screen, to getting more sophisticated? Was this like your whole teenagehood? like playing around and being real geeky, or tell us about teenage
I was
Barry.
definitely geeky Barry,
Yeah.
um, but more on the hardware side. So what I used to do
Ah,
is, if I had something electronic, I would just pull it apart and try to put it back together, which most of the time didn't work,
yeah,
which pissed
yeah,
off my parents, of course.
yep.
But I was a terrible teenager, as in I wasn't behaved well. I was drinking. I hang out with the wrong crowd. I was awful in school, in what you guys would call high school, I think.
Uh-huh.
I was just
What do you
terrible at
call
that.
it? What do you call it?
It's middelbare school.
Okay.
So the mid section of school,
In
I think. So
preparation for college, right?
yeah,
Or
basically. Yeah,
university, yeah.
yeah.
So
But
you were a punk.
oh
You
yeah,
were a bad dude.
yeah, not serious at all about schoolwork. I had terrible grades.
Yeah.
So from there, I ended up.
Sorry, I gotta pause you right there. I had
Yeah,
terrible grades too.
yeah,
And I just want to say to any kids out there or parents of kids who are having terrible grades, my terrible grades, and I know this because you're a sharp guy, my terrible grades were not indicative that I was stupid or that I wasn't learning. I was just bored. I was so bored. And to do things the way the teachers needed it done and to like kind of fit into the school system was very, very difficult for me. And the problem was I thought I was dumb, right? Because I'd get these bad grades and I
yeah,
was like, man, I'm really,
yeah.
I'm probably the stupidest one in the class, but that wasn't the case at all. And so anyways, I just want to give hope for anybody out there that's struggling with bad grades or their kids struggling with bad grades. Take it from Barry and I, who kind of stumbled our way through this high school period. Bad grades is not as indicative of not being able to be accomplished or be smart or anything like that. Patrick on YouTube said same thing. Totally relatable.
Yeah,
So,
and
all right. So you barely got out of your high school years, right?
yeah,
But
and
you had
I
fun. Did you have fun?
I I did have fun. I did have fun. Yeah, yeah. I had to do a grade over as well, like that
Okay.
bad. But yeah, like you said, I think the way that school worked just didn't work for me. I have a
Yeah.
bad time when people tell me what to do. So, that's all what school is there for me, at least back
Hmm.
then. Therefore, now with my daughter, we're trying something else called the Montessori.
Yep. Yep.
And
Very popular here in the U.S.
yeah, so what used to be the case, at least for me, was you go to school, you sit in your bench, you just sit there, watch the teacher all day. Teacher tells you something, does a lecture of an hour, maybe you do some practical stuff. That's it. Just sit, listen, and learn. That's not my style. Everybody has
Yep.
different learning style. So with Montessori, my daughter can now, there's 10 things that she can learn, like, I don't know, counting, writing, coloring, scissors. She's 5, so, and then she can just pick herself what she
Yeah.
wants to do today. She'll go through all of the things, but at her own pace. And
Yeah.
maybe she's not good at this particular thing or not interested in this thing, and then she just does something else. That's
Yeah.
not for everybody, of course, but I think it's working well for her.
It's probably for a lot more people than we think. I'm wondering, having thought about how you learned and the learning issues that you had, and they weren't really your learning issues. It was a mismatch between
Yeah,
styles of learning and styles of teaching.
yeah,
And then now being a parent and also, having authored 25 courses on Pluralsight, I wonder, and I'm asking this to myself as much as to you, like have those experiences impacted how you create content for learners, right? Because obviously we're
yeah,
confined within a web delivery model,
yeah,
and we're not necessarily saying, hey, go do all these things and then come back. That's not really how a
yeah.
flow of a course works. But I don't know. It's an interesting idea of how you and I, who've had those learning experiences in formal education, like how we think about teaching other people. So, all right. So what happened after high school?
So after high school, because I was so bad at it, I didn't get to go to a university. There's different levels. You can go
Uh-huh.
for a master's, you can go for a bachelor's. It wasn't called that way back then, but there was also let's say a technical high school
Right.
equivalent thing
Right,
that
right.
comes after a high
In the
school.
US we call that vocational technology or VOTEC.
Right. Yeah, it's probably something like that. So it's very hands on.
Is that
So
where
I
you
started.
went?
Yeah, that's where I went. So
Okay.
and then the direction there was kind of information technology ish, but
Mm.
more to do with electricity. Basically, I
Oh,
started
cool.
out studying to be an electrician, which
Yeah.
I have my certificate for, but I wouldn't
Nice.
actually try that on my own house. 'Cause, it's been super long since I've done anything with
Yeah.
that. But and then from there, I specialized more in information things. So actually soldering, um, little logic gates together to see what you
Yeah.
get there.
Was that part of your program, or was that the
Yeah.
soldering, was that just curiosity on your own?
No, that was part of the program there. It was
Okay,
called
cool.
telematics, I think. Yeah, telematics. So yeah, telecommunication basically, but then on a very rudimentary level there.
Yeah, that's way
So
cool.
and then from there, in my last year there, I thought, well, I can finish this and I can then, be an electrician or something in information technology. But, I will never really get paid a lot and I probably won't like my job so much. So I can also go on because from there, once you have that, you can then go on to get your bachelor's. Once you have that, you can go on to get your master's if you want. So I thought, all right, I'm going to go and try and get my bachelor. However, my mom and dad said, well, you got to do this. This cost us a lot of money already. So you can do whatever you want, but you will have to pay for that yourself. I thought, okay, well, then by that time, I had my head on straight and I had the right attitude. I grew out of all that high school stuff
Yeah.
and I thought, all right, I'm going to do this for myself. I know this is going to take time and money, but I know it's also going to pay it back later on, in terms of a better job and also something I will like more. So from there, I started to do a bachelor's degree in, was information science, wasn't anything software related because that really didn't exist back then yet, like software
Mm.
engineering, not where I lived at least. And so through that, which was actually very boring, boring as well, but that excuse me gave me the time and also the inspiration to then start learning about coding and programming more. So during my bachelor's degree, which was boring and simple for me, but during that time I did a lot of Microsoft certifications. So I had those
Oh,
very big Microsoft Press books and
yeah.
go through C Sharp and .NET, from the beginning up. And then ASP.NET came out and WCF and all those technologies. I just went through them. I was a collector of these things because I thought this will be useful when I'm done with
So
this.
so I'm curious, did you just like go pick those out at a library or bookstore, or like did you have friends that were doing this? Were you going to conferences? Like how did you find this and just dig into it?
Friends at the college also were doing that, so that was kind
So
of
you hung out with all the nerds.
yeah.
Like
Oh
it was
yeah, that
a
was
it was a real nerd pack.
yeah. Still do. I still do.
Yeah.
So yeah, from there, it just started, and then once I was done with the bachelor's degree, I already had a bunch of certifications ready, and I already knew
Yeah.
how to code as well. So then I started as a consultant in a consultancy company because that was all the rage back then. It still is. We still have way too little, a very high
Talent.
demand on software folks, and
Yeah.
not enough talent. So
Mhm.
basically, they're standing there at the gate with a lease car, saying, "Hey, come work for us, man. Here's a relatively big salary for a super young guy, and you get a car and a laptop." So it's all very impressive for your first job. Like, oh yeah, sure, I'll do it. I'll drive around the country. It's fine, which was fine as well. It was a fun job to do, which meant they hire me out to customers, and I'm there, the helping hand within the customer, or whatever they tell you to be. You're just
Yeah.
you're a role, whatever they sold you as.
So good money,
Yeah.
lot of hotels, right? You're staying in hotels a lot?
No, I actually would travel because the Netherlands is not that large. 3
Okay.
hours, you just drive through it completely. You're in a different
Okay.
country.
So you'd sleep in your own bed usually, and then
Yeah,
you
but
just drive to the customer's office.
yeah, with long commutes though. So
Yeah.
often hour, hour and a half or something for just one way.
Yeah.
So that's still takes a long time.
There's
And
some places in the US where, I mean, when I was in high school, I knew this lady who commuted, I think, 3.5 hours each way,
oh
each way. And she didn't even make a lot of money. She probably made about 12 to 15 bucks an hour. And I was like, I could not understand why she did it, but I don't know. Maybe she read a lot while she was on whatever, however she commuted. Um, so
yeah,
how long did you do this consulting?
I think 5 years or something.
Okay, is
Four or
this
five
where
years.
the nemesis of burnout started happening? Like that consulting is hard work, right? Like
Yeah,
I hear, people that work in the big four, generally you get out of school, you go work in one of the big four consultancies and you're there for a few years. But
yeah,
most people, I think, get to a point where they're like, I'm not doing this the rest of my life. This is way
yeah.
too much work.
It's very hard because you travel a lot, you make very long days. And being a software person as well, in the evening you need to learn more stuff because the next day you have a different customer with some technology you never heard of, and you need to be an expert in it because they sold you as a senior, blah blah, in that technology. So
Yeah, wow.
it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of experience in a very short amount of time.
Yeah,
So I would definitely recommend everybody to do it if you can, because you'll learn a lot. But don't do it
yeah.
too long because you'll burn out. But
Yeah,
that was definitely the start. Yeah,
I didn't do it, but I would recommend it too. I've worked with a lot of people who came out of the big four, big eight, big whatever,
yeah,
and they come out at expert level in multiple things. Like it's a whole different kind of education.
yeah,
But you have to be at the right place in your life. You have to
yeah.
be ready to dedicate an enormous amount of time and energy just to that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I didn't have a wife. I didn't have kids back then, so I couldn't do that today. For instance, well, I
No, I
could,
couldn't
but I
either.
I really don't want to because I
Yeah.
want to spend time with my family.
Yep.
But
Yep.
that's choices. But that was definitely the start of my burnout, although I didn't know it yet. It was
Hmm.
just bad habits, long commutes, not enough sleep, too much work, stress,
Probably
too
eating
much
out a lot in
coffee.
restaurants,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, restaurants are fun, but if
Mm.
anybody's ever eaten in restaurants for a long period of time, it gets old fast, and it's
Oh yeah.
hard. It's not healthy food usually. There is healthy food at restaurants. It's just, when you're tired and you're all the burnout stuff, it's a lot easier to go for comfort food than it is to go for a salad.
Yeah. You'll just do a burger and fries and whatever, and just
Yep.
quick snack, and then get on with it. Open your laptop and do the next thing.
Yep.
Yeah. So
So what'd
very
you do
unhealthy
after the 5 years?
Well, I was a pretty good consultant, so I also got to go on pre-sales calls and things like that. And I thought, you know what, I can do this myself as well. I had very good relationships with most of my customers. I thought, I can also be a freelancer. It's kind of the same thing. I make a lot more money, and nobody tells me what to do. Again, the tells me what to do thing. Still didn't like it, even as a consultant, because they still told me, you need to go to that customer and that customer, which I still didn't like. So yeah, I started as a freelancer, and then I was lucky because I got to start with some of my old customers for my consultancy job. The company let me have those, or
That's cool.
yeah, that
Good
was
for
very
them.
cool of them. Yeah. So I had a good start already, and even if I didn't have that, the market was so very good. You could just get a job, quit, and get another one the next day. It was crazy.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I did that. Freelancer. It's basically the same thing. So still a lot of travel, a lot of customers. Basically just a consultant. But now I had more money and the illusion of more freedom. Because you still can't choose. There are still customers. You still have to
Yep.
say yes because you still have to go to work. Otherwise, you don't make money.
Yep.
So yeah, I did that for quite a while, and then at some point I was at a company that was so busy, and I had a very good role there. I was a technical architect, which was very awesome role. I got to hire people, manage people, do technical stuff as well. But it was also a highly political role.
Hmm.
So the company itself was not that much fun at some point, and that just that just drove me over the edge of burnout. And then I actually burnt out at some point, and that was that. And then from there, I changed everything basically.
And when was this? Like, what year are we talking about? By the way, I just want to acknowledge Patrick on the comments here. Patrick was here last week, and I love his comments. He said, here in the United States, electricians make very comparable money to programmers.
Wow.
And I remember when I was getting out of the CIS program, I read an article that in Las Vegas, plumbers or pipe fitters, they're sometimes called, were making $250,000 a year in Las
Wow.
Vegas because there was a big boom in Vegas, right? And I don't know if that was actually true, but I read it in the papers, and I thought, I'm gonna make maybe 50 grand at the most. Like, what am I doing here? I have a fear of heights, so I'm not really interested in doing anything that's heights related. But I thought, man, for 250 grand, I could go work for a plumber for a few years. I questioned all my life choices. He also said that and I know plumbers who are out of work and who don't have much work. It's kind of a cyclical thing, as is most everything. And then Patrick also said he did that, traveled and ate out for 4 months when I was working downstate. 4 months of fast food is terrible. I'm going to say that probably 4 days of just fast food is going to be terrible.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah, what year was this crash and burn for you?
that was 2015.
2015.
So
So this was a couple years before you started with Pluralsight.
yeah, yeah.
What was the crash like for you? Like what was the next year or so? Did you go
Well,
to work for somebody?
it's sometimes it is hard to recognize that you're actually in a burnout or that you're
Yeah.
chronically stressed.
Hmm.
In hindsight, I was stressed for a very, very long time already, even in my consultancy days when I worked for my boss as a consultant. And once I burned out, the main symptom was I just couldn't get out of bed. I was just done. My body said no. Basically, it said no, stop. We're
Yeah.
done. You need to just do nothing for a while. Stop it.
Were you
And that,
depressed?
oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So
Depressed,
between
sad.
a mental depression and a physical, like your body really was like, I'm not moving. Like it was the
Yeah.
whole thing, mental and physical.
Yeah. Mental and physical. And that is also what I describe in the course. A burnout is, many people think of a burnout as something that is mental, that is only psychological, and
Hmm.
that is only caused by work, let's say. And it's an occupational burnout. But that's really not the case. Everybody can burn out. A mom can burn out as well. And a burnout, to me, that is the result of prolonged chronic stress. And stress you get from mental things like you're anxious, you're worrying about money, you're stressed because you're too busy, but also physical stress, and those add up. So physical stress, for instance, is 4 months of eating fast food, not enough
Hmm.
sleep, alcohol, smoking, not enough exercise, all those things, toxins in your body, things that you put on your body when you get out of the shower, for instance. Your personal care products that contain toxins. All of those things are all stressors on your body, and all of those things, even if they are in your head, all actually trigger the physical stress response of fight and flight. And so a little bit of cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, the whole HPA axis, which is a mechanism that uh, strengthens those hormones and eventually makes them die down. That all activates. So all those things activate through all these small things, and all of this adds up, especially over the years. Like with me, I was so busy. I was so busy with traveling as well, eating bad, Uh, Drinking things that I couldn't, like milk, for instance. I am actually lactose intolerant, but I didn't know it. Eating gluten, which is fine for a lot of people. I am gluten intolerant, didn't know it as well. All those things caused stress. And at some point, the stress of then my freelance job, which was very difficult, lots of frustration there, that just put me over the top. And then it just
Mm.
spills out into all of these symptoms of the body saying no, including depression, crying, you name it. And then, you're just done for a while,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
sucked. Yeah.
Yeah. I when I was in my job search in 2006, I was um, I wasn't stressing my body physically from eating or drinking bad things. It was just mostly what was at home. Although I probably had about 5 dozen donuts more than I should have. So yeah, I'm going to say I wasn't like a super clean eater,
Mm.
but the stress, the mental stress of not having a job but having a lot of bills, and my wife was pregnant with our
Oof. Yeah.
fourth child at the time. It was enormously stressful, and I remember laying in bed multiple mornings thinking, why? Like, why am I going to do all the same stuff I did yesterday? I'm not getting anywhere. There was no hope. There was no end in sight. And I did not understand that I was in a depression until months and months later, when I was able to look back on it and contrast where I was then with where I was before. And I was like, wait a minute, that was a bad time. I mean, it was hard and stressful and all those other words, but I didn't allow myself or even think about, depression or anything like that. And I think
Yeah.
it's easy when you're in the moment to just think, well, this is how it is. Like, this is what we do. We go to work, or we eat out, or, I mean, we don't think about what we're doing to ourselves, and we don't see the impact that it's having on our mind and our bodies in the moment, usually, right?
Yeah.
So
It's very difficult. And it's also very difficult to feel how crappy you actually feel until you feel better.
mhm.
So that's
because
very difficult.
that crappy becomes your normal.
Yeah, that's just
And it's
normal.
just like, this is how I am. This is normal. And then, like you're
Yeah,
saying, when you feel better, then you're like, wait, that wasn't normal. And I don't ever want to go back there again.
exactly. Yeah, that's really how it is. So yeah, from there, I first took off from work. I let work know, I'm done. I'm not coming in. Thank you. They were pretty understanding actually, which was very nice. Um, Obviously, I didn't get paid because I was a freelancer at the time. That was a bit stressful,
Yeah.
but yeah, that works. It just had to. I just couldn't work. And then after I don't know, 3 weeks or a month or so, I started to come back, but then a couple days a week, started trying to do that. But still, then every time I went back and I started to work again, then I was close. I felt it. My bucket was filled up to here. So
Hmm.
if anything really happened, I would have been back to where I was because I didn't really change anything. I
Mm.
just rested for a while and I went back to all of my exact same habits there. So at some point, I thought to
Mm.
myself, I need to change something. I need
Hey,
to get rid of some of the
let's just
stressors.
pause on that. I think that's really profound, because what I hear a lot is, I need a vacation. I
Yeah,
need a day off. Take a mental day off, right? And what you're saying is, taking the time off isn't necessarily going to fix
no,
the problem. It's almost like a little band-aid at the time, but the healing has to happen. Other changes need to happen. Patrick just said, because of how burnout comes on, what we're just talking about, how we don't recognize it, management should be better trained to recognize it. The person burning out rarely realizes it in the time. And I'm not, I mean, sure, there should be better training, but there should just be a higher emotional intelligence where the managers are thinking, all right, something is off, something's wrong with Barry. Like, let's sit down and chat. And they should be able to be aware of and recognize, and then have a good, healthy conversation with you. I don't know about where you live, but here, I mean, I've heard, secondhand heard somebody say, yeah, my boss told me that I should watch what my sodas and my food and stuff like that. And it came across as very patronizing. And, the boss was like, well, maybe if you ate a little healthier, then you would do better. Right. And it was like, okay, that's not what I need. Although what I'm hearing from you is that it's actually true. Like, we should change some of these inputs that will reduce the stress on our bodies, right?
Yeah, you should work on then trying to minimize or eliminate stressors on your body. And those can be physical, and those can also be, of course, your situation, like your work, for instance. But I think if your employer starts to say, maybe pass on that burger and eat something more healthy, yeah, it's a good thought. Maybe they should, I don't know.
And it's true
It's
sometimes,
true, but it
there's
might
truth
come
in it.
across a bit as a patronizing or something. So maybe they should do that in a different way. Sometimes they have these programs here in the Netherlands where they have like a food consultant or a health consultant come into a company, and they, evaluate with everybody, do a little bit of training. That would work better, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, so from there, I started changing things, and the first thing I changed was my freelance job. I just quit that job, and I thought, I'll see this. There'll be another customer. It's fine. I did get another customer, which was better. I felt better with that customer. It was simpler. I didn't have as much responsibilities. It was also closer to home, so I didn't have as long as a commute as well. Still, it wasn't right. But it was a lot better already. And then slowly, I started also working on other stressors, as in my habits, like sleep and food as well, and all those things. And then around that time, or a little bit before, I tried out for Pluralsight because I was watching Pluralsight. I had a membership with Pluralsight for quite a long time, but I thought maybe I can try it because everybody can do it. I think it's Pluralsight/teach. You can just apply to be an author. And I thought, well, why not? I'll just try it, and I got through. And then I got to make my first course, which took a very long time. First course.
I think they always do.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, and then slowly but surely, was some passive income coming from Pluralsight, because that's how that works. For people that are not familiar, when you create a video course for Pluralsight, you get what's called author fees. So a little bit of passive income based on how many people watch your course, which is very nice. It's a nice addition to your income. And now I have a lot more courses. It buys me time and freedom, that passive income, because people watch those courses 24/7. I don't have to do anything about them but to update them sometimes and to create new ones, of course. And then that just comes in. So now I am in a very fortunate situation where I can choose what I do. I can choose my work. So I can choose if I
So,
take a consultancy role or not.
so you're saying that becoming a Pluralsight author was a stress reliever?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Weirdly
Yeah.
so, yeah.
All right. All right. Let me dig in on this a little bit, because I'm a Pluralsight author also, obviously, and I agree. Like, I choose what I do. I choose when I wake up. I choose what I work on. I am very, very busy. Like, I've been working a lot this last year,
Yeah.
but it's all self-imposed deadlines, and it's stuff that I'm choosing to do. Um, Not everybody's going to be a Pluralsight author, right? And
No.
so let's just go up 10,000 feet. I think one of the messages that I want to share here is that there are other income streams outside of a job, or outside of one client or your 3 clients or whatever. There are
Yeah.
other ways to generate income. And when you can figure out how to make that income more passive and persistent, right? So for example, if I'm consulting hourly, I need to spend an hour on the phone, and that's a pretty intense, like that. There's a lot of thinking that's going on during that hour. But what if I were to like write a book, an ebook even, and sell that online and have a delivery mechanism so that I never have to touch it? Maybe once a year I come in and update the book or whatever. But what if you can make $500 or $1,000 or $5,000 from a passive income stream? Going back to a couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, when I was working in a job, I remember sitting in my boss's office in October, and she's like, "I'm sorry, we're going to have to let you go." And the first thought that I had was, you are not even providing half of my income. Like, it was a really good job, and I made good money, but I had created over years, over more than 10 years, I had created other income streams. And so when one income stream got taken away, I remember I went home and I had a chat with my wife, and she's like, "Okay, let's go on panic mode and let's be very careful about what we're doing financially." And I said, "Okay, hold on. Before we get there, let me just share where our finances are at and what the other income streams are that we've been working on, and we're okay. Like, we don't need to touch our family budget because the other income streams were already paying for that." And so whether you're a Pluralsight author, or you write your own ebook, or you have rentals, or whatever, you choose to create other income streams that can buy you that time and freedom. And man, I'll tell you what, the best way to get laid off is when you don't need the money. It's awesome. It's really cool. I hated leaving my team and my project that I was working on, but financially it was no big deal, which was really cool. And that doesn't happen overnight, unless you're one of those people on the YouTube commercials where you make millions of dollars and you're going to teach other people how to make millions of dollars. But for me, it's like slow and steady, like slowly create your other income streams. And kind of solidify that. So I just want to put that plug in. If anybody's out there, wondering about becoming a Pluralsight author, I say try it out. It's freaking awesome. I've enjoyed it. It's been life-changing for me, and it sounds like it's been life-changing for you. But it's not the only income stream that you can start to work on to create this kind of freedom.
No, I couldn't agree more. And there's a lot more you can do. So there's Pluralsight. If you're a course creator, you can also create courses for LinkedIn or Udemy, for instance. Everybody can create something for Udemy. You can also put it on YouTube or something. You can also invest in the stock market, for instance, which is a great place to make money there. Obviously, I'm not a financial advisor, and you should be careful with what you do there. But you should do something with your money and your skills. Everybody can do it nowadays. The internet is a great equalizer, because everything is accessible to almost everybody, and you don't need a lot of money to start creating a book, creating a course, or even investing in the stock market. You really don't. Start small, and then you can build up. Even if, like you say, even if you get like $100 every month, that's awesome, without you doing anything. Anybody can do that. I'm convinced of that.
Yeah. Yep. I agree. I want to talk about in your course on burnout. So there's 3 sections. The first module, we call them in Pluralsight, is what is stress. The second one is recognizing a burnout. And I think we talked a little bit about that and how it's kind of hard to recognize while you're in it. What are some things off the top of your head of recognizing a burnout, like red or yellow flags that we should start to be aware of?
Yeah, so there's multiple stages that you go through before you are in full burnout mode, because before that you are already chronically stressed. You might not notice it because it's just the state of your life, and that's just how you are. We just power through it. For instance, if you are pretty tired when you wake up every night, probably your sleep isn't that good. Probably you're already a bit stressed there. If you have episodes of feeling dizzy, for instance, you're irritable during the day, stuff like that. You need more coffee, you need more wine or beer in the evening, for instance. Small things like that.
Which is a coping mechanism sometimes,
which are
right?
coping mechanisms, absolutely, yeah. Hey, I've done that. I still do that sometimes. That there's nothing wrong with that. But if you need that every day, then that's an indicator that something is wrong there. Something is off, and you're chronically stressed. You can. This is all very subjective, as in you need to feel yourself if you're stressed. You can also more objectively measure if you are stressed and how stressed you are by, for instance, watching your HRV, which stands for heart rate variability. Many devices nowadays measure it, like your Apple Watch, for instance, can measure that. I wear a ring. It's called an Aura ring, measures my sleep, also HRV. I think Fitbit and other things also measure HRV. There are apps on your phone that can do the same. What that is the variability between the beats of your heart rate. So it's not always the same, and it shouldn't always be the same. And the more variable your heartbeat is, the less stressed you actually are. And
Oh, interesting.
the less that is, so if it's very consistent, then you are more stressed.
Hmm.
So the higher you can get that number, the better. Now the question is then, well, how do I know if it's 100 if I'm stressed or not? Well, that obviously depends completely on your baseline. So if you start measuring your HRV and you do that for a couple of weeks, then you kind of know where you are, and you can start to correlate that with how you feel. For instance, hey, I'm very irritable today. Let's look at my number. Oh, it's 10 or something. Okay. And the next day, hey, I feel pretty good. It's 40. Okay. So if it's 40 for me, I'm okay. So it's very personal number, but it's a lot more objective. So every day when I wake up, I look at my number and I know whether it's going to be a good or a bad day. And nowadays, I
Yeah.
can also predict that, of course, without actually looking at my number.
Are you so this is something that you look at daily?
Yeah.
The HRV just daily. It's not like every hour or whatever. It's
No,
really like a
that's a
once a
daily
day.
thing. No, no,
And
it's a
and
daily
is
thing.
can you manipulate it by exercising? And is that cheating, or is
Absolutely.
that's a
Yeah.
healthy
No,
manipulation of your
a
HRV?
healthy, yeah, you can exercise makes it better, but over exercise doesn't. Let's say I go for a run today for 5 miles. That's a very good thing. That probably will raise it a little bit tonight, but will make it, or it won't raise it tonight. It will lower it tonight because my body is stressed because of the run. But if I then rest tomorrow, then it will be higher than it was the day before I ran. So I recovered well, and my body learned something there. So it de-stressed. If I do go for a run tomorrow as well, and if that is too much for my fitness there, then it will be even lower the next day because then
Hmm.
I over exercised
Wow,
and I
that's
stressed my body
fascinating.
even more. Yeah.
I've
So
never
there's
heard of
lots of things.
HRV. That's cool. And it's fun, as a data or a metrics person to have like this number. Like as a geek, it's like, ooh,
Yeah.
numbers. I can take this number and, like you said, look at it in the morning and see if you're going to have a good day or not. So what do you
Yeah.
do like when you have a bad number in the morning? And like that number indicates that you would otherwise have a bad day. What do you do, Barry? Like how do you react to that so that you make it a
Yeah.
better day than what your number is telling you?
I do. So, for instance, if I was planning to do some exercise there, I do less intense things. Maybe I'll go for a walk instead for a run, for instance. I'll make sure that I eat very clean that day, the day that I'm feeling bad and have a low HRV. I don't do any alcohol that day, for instance. I watch coffee, like not too much. I can still drink coffee, but not too much. Definitely no fast food, and go to bed early. So basically,
Mm.
I'm tightening down on all the things that I can control a little bit more to make it a better day.
Yeah, fascinating. Do you do meditation or yoga or journaling? I mean, those are three things that are on the opposite end of high,
Yeah.
heart intense.
Yeah, I do meditation. It's very hard to stick to do it every day. Especially with small kids. I try to do it in the morning, but sometimes it's just so hectic. And
Yeah,
then, I can choose to, well, do it when you get to your office. I got stuff to do. Sometimes I just don't feel
yeah.
like it. I just want to, get started. But I try to do that every day. That's yeah. And that when I do it, then it definitely helps. And another thing
Hmm.
that I recently discovered that helps me a lot is binaural beats, and that is that's a very strange thing. It sounds very flaky and woo woo like a hoax, but it really isn't. I have this app on my phone. It's called iBeats. It's for an iPhone. And what it does is it has these binaural beat tracks. And when you listen to that on headphones, each ear has a different frequency of beats. So it sounds very strange, like that's like 15 minutes. I put that on before I go to bed. I lay down with it with my AirPods on, and then I sleep like a baby. And then I also notice it objectively with my HRV. It gets higher then,
Wow.
which is just very
So
nice.
this is something you do when you go to bed. Like, could you do it
Yeah.
during the day while you're working?
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes also,
Mm,
but yeah.
wow, this is cool.
So so there are many things that you can do to. This is then something that you do to actively relax. Like meditation is active relaxation. It's
Yeah,
different than just sitting on the couch and doing nothing. That's also
right. Watching
relaxation, but
TV.
yeah,
Like watching TV is like cheat relaxing, like it's faux relaxing, right? It's like
yeah,
you think you're relaxing, but
yeah,
it's probably not the healthiest way. Even if you were to take a little bit of time and do, a 10-minute yoga or meditation, journaling is extreme for me. It's been very therapeutic
yeah,
and very relaxing and I journal through my blog posts usually. Um, yeah, it's awesome.
yeah. I want to get into the journaling. I haven't. Again, time constraints, little kids.
Now, wait a
It's
minute. I
difficult.
think, didn't you send me? Oh, no, no, that was Peter. Sent me something about it's a Medium post on a gratitude resume. Give credit to those who helped you. I'll put that in the comments here. Sorry, I thought that was from you, but creating a gratitude resume or journal, I think, is just very powerful. Um, to just slow down and appreciate, right? Recognize and appreciate, and then express appreciation. Man, I feel like we're going to shoot. What's that guy? Fred, Mr. Rogers. We're going to like Mr. Rogers level of happiness here. So, anyways, how do you, as a manager, going back to Patrick's comment about managers should be trained on burnout? Let's switch gears and imagine if we were taught, or you were consulting a manager, like myself or other managers. How would you consult managers on helping their team avoid, recognize, and work through burnout?
Yeah. Well, that's a very difficult thing. I think the main thing is to make sure that the people that manage people can recognize it so that they know all of the symptoms, also the early symptoms of chronic stress, what that looks like, what that manifests in, like irritability. Um, Maybe there should be one-on-one coaching sessions if there aren't any yet. And I call it a coaching session, but it could just be a talk with your manager every week for an hour just to check in. How are you doing? How is home? How are you feeling about your job? Still cool? Frustrated with anything? And
Yeah,
it should be very, very open. It should be, um, and that's a culture thing, but it should be the case that somebody could just walk up to a manager and say, "Yeah, I'm feeling a bit depressed, or I'm very frustrated with how things are going here," without the person then fearing, I'm going to lose my job if I speak up,
yeah,
or I'm not going to get that promotion, for instance, because Johnny there never says anything, and he smiles through the day, and he'll probably get the promotion if he doesn't complain. I
yep.
think that's a more difficult thing, building a culture that actually supports that. But yeah, and then once somebody is in burnout, because it's sometimes just inevitable, it just happens. A company should have very good, not controls around it, but should be very flexible around it. So should be able to give time off without a decrease of pay, or without missing out on opportunities, and then potentially look into changes, not just coming back for 2 days a week and then, slowly ramp it up until you're completely back, but look into sustainable changes. Like maybe this job isn't right for you. Maybe we can find something else within the company. Maybe we can reskill you or something, you know,
Yeah.
and then looking together at that instead of losing that employee, because that's what's going to happen after a burnout. They're going to need a change, or they're going to burn out again and then change,
Hmm.
or you help
The
them and retain them.
I mean, I've been at plenty of companies where they bring meals in, and trying to think, they're usually not healthy. They're more on the comfort food side. And so maybe at the cultural, the leadership level in an organization, you need to start saying, hey, look, we want to bring meals in, and we have that budgeted. How can we do this in a healthier way that's also satisfying, you know?
Yeah.
So I was just thinking, as you were talking about, managers working through this and figuring it out, that maybe there needs to be a specialist, if you can afford it, either on the staff or a consultant, that you can say, look, we both agree that you're stressed, and we want to avoid burnout, and we want you to be happy here and be a high performer.
Yeah.
Let's schedule some time with this specialist, and whatever you want to call it, right? But that's somebody who can say, what's your diet look like, and what's your smoking and drinking and exercise and sleep and all this other stuff. And I think maybe separating that conversation from the manager to somebody who just focuses on helping people be healthier. In the US, we call these wellness programs, but the wellness programs is like, are you going to lose weight? Are you going to the smoking cessation program? Things like that. So I think what you and I are talking about is going beyond, like, hey, let's have a contest to lose weight, and which is maybe a symptom, and go to the root issue of saying, all right, let's address root problems that will really help with the benefit of higher satisfaction, higher performance, lower irritability and stuff like that. Patrick just said the amount of pizza parties and donuts I've seen in hospitals, right? Like, but it's easy. Like, pizza's easy. You make a phone call and somebody brings a whole bunch of boxes, and then, it's almost a finger food, Yeah. So, hey, we got a couple minutes left. This has been really, really good. I appreciate your thoughts. And, I've lived through burnout. And when I took a job a few years ago, I said I need a change of scenery. And that really was very helpful for me to go from where I felt like I was in a rut and getting really tired of what I was doing, and getting into a new environment with new people and new projects and new responsibilities was exciting. And that was very helpful for me. And then, like I said, during my job search, when I was depressed and I didn't realize it, I think that we as individuals in society go through this more than we recognize, and more than what society recognizes. So I'm glad that we can have this conversation. Just in the last minute or two, is there anything you want to wrap this up with? Any thoughts that you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, I was just thinking whilst you were saying that, like, you changed your situation there to make it something that was more exciting. I think that works if you know yourself. So if you know what you like. And when I was younger, I'm still young ish, but when I was younger, I really didn't know who I was or what my preferences were. Like, now I know that at the core of me, I am an introvert, even though I sometimes do extrovert things like this, for instance, or speaking at a conference or something. I am an introvert. So being around a lot of people, that sucks my energy slowly. So I need to then be alone to recharge and feed my soul. Now I know that I can do that more deliberately. So that's just, a thing that I want to press on to people. Figure that out for yourself somehow. Try to figure out who you are, and what your preferences are. What feeds your soul, and what sucks your energy. And then you can make more
And
deliberate
respect that.
choices.
Respect
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna say where I thought you were headed, which is another idea that I've had over the years. There are some things you can't run away from. So changing jobs, changing bosses, changing teams, changing roles,
Yeah.
to get away from something you thought was bad, that something might be in yourself. And so you really do have to identify and figure out what, like you said, know yourself. Because if you're changing jobs, which could be running away from something, you're still carrying yourself with you. And I'm not going to say that you're the problem, but the root problem might be something within you that you can change. So, man, this is great stuff, Barry. Thank you so much. The links to Barry's Twitter handle and or Twitter page and his courses are on the YouTube description. So with that, thank you. Have a good night. For you, you're going to bed. I'm just starting my day. We'll see you online. Talk to you later.
All right. Bye-bye.